Hello everyone, I'm your host, Sideways Josh. I cannot get the whole diorama in my camera, sadly, no matter what I do. Mostly because it's attached to this very long camera arm that is attached to a post over there. So I literally can't take my camera any further away. So we're just gonna have to see it in bits and pieces for now. But I did want to kind of start with a holistic appraisal of what's going on. Okay, so what's going on? Well, I'm in the, what would I say? I don't know, 75% out of the exploration phase and into the actually, procedurally just getting stuff done phase. So I started down here, and I've been figuring out how to get, since last we met, I've been trying to figure out how to go from, the base colors and tones that are in there to get all the various weathering and stuff that you see on, realistic rocks and ruins. A lot of the green that I have down is going to be covered, or at least accentuated, with this kind of mossy, grassy tufts and stuff. But the thing I'm really trying to focus on is getting the stains and drips. And the two main points of reference that I'm looking at for that at the moment are these guys. So I'm looking specifically here at how these different colors merge and drip together. And so there's patches of mold, lichen, and what's the other thing? Algae. Alganon. And so yeah, basically I'm just examining this kind of thing. Here's another example of where you've got just these very dark stain patches going down. And then on this piece, which has a lot of similarities to not only the stone type but the architecture as well, I'm looking at interesting anomalies where it's there's clearly a crack with a dark stain coming down, but then a whiter, white oozing out there, and then other areas where there's a patch of very lightness, and then little dark drips coming down off of that. Yeah, so I'm looking both at the architecture itself and the cliff side around it. Last night I was experimenting, having just looked at that really light-ish area with the dark stains coming. I was trying to emulate that in a couple places, like here and here. And in isolation, I think they work pretty well. But when I step back and look at the whole thing, I'm unhappy, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm unhappy. I think part of the reason is that the more you have this drippy, stainy stuff happening, the more it's obscuring the natural shapes, the clefts, the cracks and stuff in the rock. So you get a little bit of visual confusion going on there. And I'm trying to thread that needle, walk that fine line of how do I respect what happens in nature, but then also try to artistically make something that reads pleasantly to the eye. Because those two things are sometimes mutually exclusive. So yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I'm mulling over right now. I also found that I was not liking what was happening with some of my spatter work here. Again, that's something you often see in references, these little dots of white lichen around. But it may be the spacing, it may be the opacity. Something about them is just reading off, whether it's the scale or it's just too obvious that it's paint spatter and not something organic happening on the rock. A place that I'm really happy with the organic nature of it is back there. Well, even on these pillar legs, there's a lot of different tones that are built up, and the places where you do see little spatters and dots, I think they're like dim enough or less transparent enough. Not transparent, translucent. Maybe that's the word I'm going for. And I think the way that happened was from overspray when I was doing the wash on this. So I'm going to work with some of that. I think I'm going to continue what I was doing here just as far as like adding in different colors and tones and stuff. I'm probably not going to do much more of this. If after I finish everything I'm still unhappy with this, I'll just kind of tone it down by, you know, doing another wash of gray or something over it. So anyway, yeah, that gets you caught up with where I'm at. I started down here. Well, actually I started over here and then kind of worked my way over, and then I'm working my way up, and I'm around here at this point, I think. So that's where I'm just gonna continue. And if you guys have any questions about products I'm using, techniques, whatever, ask away. That's what I'm here for. So while I did do a wash, I'm kind of accentuating some of the dark areas to help further add more depth to what's already there. So I'm doing kind of both a kind of shadow wash pass, as well as a drippy stain thing. This is a wash made out of water, some ink, some acrylic black paint, and some airbrush medium. Oh, as well as a little bit of flow aid, which helps it seek out the cracks. I try to start with the biggest brush possible, and then as I need to refine, I'll come in with the smaller brush. But starting with the biggest is the way to save the most time and not get caught up on like tiny little details that are really like unwarranted. Like I definitely go in and spend a lot of time on details, but I don't want to start at that stage. Accidentally squashed that little corner of foam, and that's giving away the trick when part of your rock looks crinkly instead of like fractured and cracked. No crinkles. Don't have many rules here, but one of them is no crinkles. Another rule I have is no, well, not no, very few drips that are the width of an actual drop of water or paint oozing down. You either want it to be a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner. Otherwise your eye picks up pretty fast the scale that the thing actually is instead of the perceived scale I'm trying to fool your eye into thinking it is. all art in general, but especially on large pieces like this, it's really important to on a regular basis, take a step back and look at it holistically. You don't want to just like stay zoomed into a postage stamp size and then just move from tiny piece to tiny piece. That's happened to me way too many times, and then I step back and look at the whole thing and I'm like, oh my god, it's a mess. Speaking of stepping back and looking at things, Neil at Real Train Hobbies just released his latest video today or yesterday, and oh my god, I haven't finished it yet, but it is so epic. You guys should definitely check out his YouTube channel. It's like a giant fire-breathing dragon attacking a castle. You know, the glowing fire thing. It's so epic. I mean, don't watch it now. Watch this now. You know, queue it up. Get it in your queue. But yeah, I highly encourage you to check that out. If you like fantasy, you like miniatures, if you're on this channel, you probably like those things. You owe it to yourself to check out his channel. Plus, he's just having a real rough go of it right now. His wife is real sick, and he's having to, like, he was trying to make YouTube a full-time gig, and then just a variety of things keep getting in the way, and he's like so talented and makes such good stuff. I just really want to encourage people to go watch his stuff, leave a comment, give him encouragement. Oh, and speaking of encouragement, encourage me to keep the camera on the part that I'm actually working on. I need that encouragement, you guys. Definitely one of the things that I see in most reference of like rock overhangs and the tops, like roofs of ruins, is that they're almost always covered with black mold or algae or something. Something very dark. I was trying to get a nice oxidized brown stain coming down here yesterday, and I guess I just underplayed it, added too much water. or something, because you can barely see it. So I've got this kind of reddish patch here, so if I want to do some more brown stain, this would be a place to do it. And actually, I think I want to bring in some red too. Just the smallest hair of red. This nice spray bottle of water. I should be using it. But yeah, again, I'm looking for every opportunity to tie the colors of these, you know, the rock and the ruins together, because I'm trying to get this idea across that the ruins are carved out of the rock. They're not a separate, you know, separate stones imported. I actually have two spray bottles here. I've got one with the just plain water in it, and then I've got my little guy that is isopropyl alcohol, and that will tend to make the paint kind of spread apart and dissipate in interesting ways that often are reminiscent of like mold or lichen patches. So I like to mix those together, and I often end up with happy accidents that way. In this case, I'm just wetting this area down before I come in with my wash, so that it'll spread nicely, and it won't, I don't have to worry about it overpowering the nice red that I have there that is really important for me to keep. I think I'm gonna need to let that dry before I do any more black over it, because right now it's so wet that it's just gonna keep pulling the stain down. a really crappy nozzle on here. Uh, that's okay. Sometimes crappy is how you get happy accidents. Not in your pants, but in other places sometimes. Crappy nozzles in your pants never end up with happy accidents, only sad accidents. Also going to bring a little ochre yellow in here. To do like just a big brownish splotch somewhere up here. I haven't quite put my finger on how I want that to play out. But the nice thing about this stage is that I can just wet blob stuff on, and then if I don't like it, just cover it over. I'm thinking compositionally, in order to keep things from feeling lopsided, I need to do some of this corpse paint style painting at least in one place over here. And I think it's going to be particularly difficult to pull off on this area that's a lot more uh, corroded, like a lot fewer like flat faces. So if I want to do it, I'm thinking up in this area is probably where I need to do it. Now I don't want it to be symmetrical, right? I don't want it, so since I have one on this side here, I wouldn't want to do it right here. That's gonna look weird. So my options are kind of this area, because if you look at the other side there, I've got sort of one here and one here. So there's a blank spot there that if you look over here, I can go, or a little bit higher up here. That's going to start interfering with the irony brownie stuff that I've got going on up there. Which is okay. That's something you see in your reference. Like, things are always getting mixed together in weird ways. I guess another thing to consider is that because it creates a high contrast area, high contrast will always draw the eye. And so I want to think about overall compositionally, where do I want the eye to be drawn? And general, this is sort of the focal point of the piece. So higher would be better than lower. So I think that's going to be what makes my decision for me. Out of this spot versus this spot, I'm going to go with this spot simply because it's higher. Another thing, actually, maybe I could do is try to do it in more in this area that's wrapping around into there. It's going to be a little more challenging for me, but you know, it's a learning process. And again, if it doesn't work out, just dry brush over it and it'll be fine. So I've got this, I don't know, this is probably about 20% white. You know what? This area down a bit first.